Joining us over the phone to discuss this issue is a member of the Socialist Party, Tom Baldwin. Now, Tom, thank you for joining us today. What do you make of Osborne's autumn statement? Is it just a bit of spin to ensure the election? The figures don't appear to add up, do they?
Well, I mean, it is a pre-election statement, so there are some little giveaways in there, some attempts to cut across some of Labour's proposals. But you're right, I mean, these are very small feed if you compare them to the main headlines coming out of this statement, which is more misery for most people. Some tens of billions, 50, 60 billion pounds more cuts in the pipeline, more cuts to services that people rely on, to things like welfare, and like I say, more misery for most people. And it's clear that strategy is not working. They're talking about missing the deficit reduction deadlines. That was supposed to be the whole point of these spending cuts. And yet, it's having the opposite effect. By their own admission, part of the problem is that tax receipts are down. And that is precisely because, people's living standards are down, people's wages are down, people are in many cases working less hours than they need to get by. And so, of course, they're not, able to pay the same taxes. And government's admitting that, but what are they doing about it? Actually, with public sector, they've cut wages or held wages down, and they've given a green light to employers to do exactly the same. So, it's their policies that are contributing to the problem here.
Now, Tom, into 2010, the Chancellor said borrowing would be less than £37 billion by the end of the current Parliament. What has gone wrong? Because it's nearly trebled, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, it's about 3 times that. Like I say, part of the problem is that they're not able to address the problems of low wages, and therefore a weakness in the economy. And the Socialist Party policy is to raise the minimum wage. We want a £10 an hour minimum wage, so it is a genuine living wage for people. But also, there's the problems of tax evasion and avoidance by the super rich and by big business. They've brought in, something in this statement to try and address that. But overall, they've been cutting the staff that collect taxes. And so, again, their policies are taking things in the wrong direction here.
Now, we know that the deficit has risen by almost £5 billion since March. How can he say that Britain is on course for a surplus?
Well, I'm not sure that it is. I mean, that's not taken into account all the weaknesses, both in the world economy, which the Tories have flagged up, but in the UK economy as well. Not least of all the fact that living standards are still lower than they were before the crisis, that people are still, worse off. But also, there's a lack of investment in creating real decent jobs. The big businesses are sitting on huge amounts of money, cash piles of some £800 billion. And rather than getting more private sector involvement in their public sector, they're selling off of services, then I think they should be doing the opposite. They should be taking those big companies into public ownership, so we can democratically decide where the money that they're sitting on is spent, direct investment based on what meets people's needs, not on what makes more and more profit for these people.
Tom Baldwin, member of the Socialist Party, thank you very much for joining us today.